assume that my primary role today, please sit down, will be to ensure some gender diversity on the stage, which I'm very happy to do, especially because we have such distinguished and competent speakers. And let me start by introducing you one by one. So from this side, we have Mārtiņš, Mellēns, global private equity and principal investing practice at McKinsey company. After graduating from Stockholm School of Economics in Riga, Mārtiņš spent most of his life and work and studies outside Latvia, focusing on Middle East last 13 years, working in Dubai for last 8 years. And then, what was it, 1 year ago, decided that this is the time to come back with the family to Riga, but continue working for McKinsey in Dubai. So here is a real-life example of what Ministry of Foreign Affairs is trying to achieve, and all of us would like to see more. We have Maksims Jegorovs. Maksims Jegorovs is Managing Director at Accenture Baltics. Accenture, as you very well know, is a leading global company providing strategy, consulting, digital and technology services and solutions. Accenture Baltics is the largest employer in ICT sector, employing around 2,000 professionals, mostly IT specialists. What you might not know is that Accenture has been attracting international talent for years and doing it on a systematic basis. What they've also done on a systematic basis is to reskill substantial part of Latvian population, I would like to say, in IT profession. So again, something that we would like to see more and more. We have Pēteris Daliņš, Chairman and VP at Global Delivery of Emergn Latvia. Emergn is a global digital business services firm, also one of the best employers in the field, employing around 400 employees. And I have to mention it, Pēteris is also a great grandson of our silver medalist, Daliņš. So, having been born in Australia, having worked all over the world, he decided 2 years ago to move to Latvia to become a CEO of a company. So again, I think speaking now to representatives of diaspora, listening to us, a real-life example to what we would like to see more of. And last but not the least, we have Arvils, Ašeradens, member of our parliament, a leader of Unity Party, but most importantly in this conversation, chairman of the Education, Culture and Science Committee, formerly also Minister of Economics, Deputy Prime Minister, journalist, entrepreneur himself, and I would like to say currently one of the leading voice advocating for reskilling and upskilling, advocating for educational reform. So again, very important topic for us. And yes, so let's start. We've had a lot of macro perspective, but I actually want to make it personal. So I want to ask all of you the same question in respect to your choice of Riga as a workplace. So all of you are international talent that could work anywhere, Brussels, London, Dubai, Hong Kong, name it. Yet you've chosen to work in Riga or from Riga. So could each of you tell why or what makes Riga attractive for you as a workplace? If we could start, Mārtiņ, with you.
All right. It's a rather big question, but thank you so much, Zane, for, first of all, bringing the panel together. I think it's great to talk about these issues and make them personal and specific, right? Because I think too many of the ideas floating around are similar. So like we have to get to the very specific details. Only the specific detail can make a change. So I would say the choice to live in Latvia, if you are a Latvian, is different as a choice to move to Latvia if you're not a Latvian, right? So I think for me, the most important driving force was my children. I wanted them to give the identity of a Latvian, although I don't know its advantage or disadvantage in their careers further on, but I want to do that from my personal perspective. And also ability to let's say, be close to the family, stay close and stay involved in the communities you care about as you are getting older in life, I think is something we all experience. So for me, those two driving factors is one is the family and two is the doing something good for the communities I care about, I think are the two driving factors.
Thank you. Maxim.
So I would say it's always type of an emotional choice. I don't think there can be a rational reason why you establish a company in Latvia, right? So I think it is always emotional. So you start not from, Air Baltic and this and that. You start from the premise that, I just don't want to move out, period. So that was my premise. So you asked to be personal. So, in my story, in the story of our family, is that we've actually applied to emigrate to Canada, and we were actually accepted to emigrate to Canada. And then we decided, why the hell would we? And this was something like 2001, I think, right? And I think it gets down to this determination that, especially in our business and technology, you're not like winning that much by moving out. But if you listen to let's say, to the media, or you listen to your friends, etc., this may be a prevailing opinion that, opportunities are somewhere better, which I guess in most of the cases is not that straightforward, right? And then when I look at my colleagues, it was also, our management team is, right now, like 150 people management team, right? And then everybody on the management team, they have this, I want to do something so that in this country, in this place, we can deliver all across the world. And then, all of the economics, Air Baltic, internet and all of that comes in.
Thank you, Maxim. Pēteris.
Yeah, I'll keep it personal. I mean, first of all, I came here by chance. Well, not by chance. I wanted to take a chance. I had the opportunity to come and work, and it had always been a lifelong dream to try and work in Latvia, growing up in an Australian Latvian family. And so we took a chance, and we said, why not? So what's the worst that can happen? So I sort of say to people out there, well, what's the worst that can happen? If you back yourself, and I'd also say it's very inclusive in Latvia, it's not that hard. I think people sometimes think that Latvia can be a place that you go visit from outside, but it's not. It's actually very easy to live here. So we've heard it today. We talk about lifestyle. Well, everybody says, why did you come from Australia? Like, isn't Australia full of beaches and kangaroos and sunshine? Well, everything wants to basically kill you. That's all the, there's bugs and snakes and everything like that. Not like that here in Latvia. That's one little simple, stupid example. But there's so much good in Latvia, and the previous speaker said it. Latvians actually don't sometimes realise how good it is here. And we can talk about it later, and we can talk about talent, but I wanted to come back and show that it is possible and try it. And I think there's a lot of people out there that could do it as well. And another topic maybe we can talk about is the Latvians that have left Latvia, that have now gained the skills outside of Latvia, how do we get them back? So that's something passionate of me, because a passion of mine, because we need to get them back. We need to realise how good it is here. So, yeah,
Thank
bit
you.
of an insight.
Arvils.
For me, it's simple and emotional. 30 years ago, let's say in early 90s, I decided really to devote my life for this country, to re-establish democracy. I had been working for a media company for 20 years and then joined politics, and it was a simple choice, yeah. So that's all. That's why I'm in Riga.
Thank you for very emotional, very personal stories. Now, if you were to advise Riga City Council or Latvian Investment Development Agency or Ministry of Foreign Affairs as for how to get back these 400,000 people, or our diaspora outside, many of whom are the very talented professionals our economy lacks, what would be your arguments and what would be your actions? What are some of the things that we should do to make it happen? And freely, whoever wants to start, please.
So I think it's important that the council looks at the foundations of what makes a city attractive. And I think some of those foundations are, the office space availability. There was a downturn in that, and that's something that we don't want to repeat. If you triple click on why the downturn was there, is because it takes you like a year, 18 months to approve something in Riga, and it takes 2 months to approve something in Vilnius, right? So, I mean, that just needs to change. Then I think the coolness factor needs to be introduced, right? So we really need to consciously work on coolness factor. And, when you visit a country and then you ask people, what is your favorite food? Like in Latvia, we host somebody, what is your favorite food? Everybody tells the same thing, right? It's the bread. Right, but if you think about that, it cannot be, like every bread is the best bread. So I think from coolness factor perspective, it's important that we kind of maybe get out of the box that we're in. Of course, it's, we feel good living here, but if you look from outside, is it that good? Does it attract people? And if we look at the balance today, I guess our balance is not that great. So if you take people who were born in Riga and you take only them, would that population decrease or increase? I would suspect it would decrease, right? So that means it doesn't work. So we're now opening up operations in Vilnius, and I came to Vilnius in August for the first time in my life as a person who's going to, open up an office, who's going to be a 2,000-person office, right? And then you start looking at things, in a totally different way. And Vilnius is, booming in many senses. It is booming, right? So the idea that Riga is far away just because we like Riga is a bit of an idea that we probably should move aside and then look like realistically at the situation. In our Riga office, we've got 36 people of 36 different nationalities. So it's a truly, I cannot even explain how international the office is, right? So in one of our projects, we were doing an application for a pharmaceuticals company, and this application is doing diagnosis, real-time diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So you take an app, and then you do movements with an app, and then the app is able to say how your multiple sclerosis progresses, right? And then at the table, we had people from the San Francisco office of our client and people from the Riga office of Accenture. And all of them happened to be from North Africa. And then, people were sharing stories about how did they flee from Iraqi war, from the Syrian war, et cetera, et cetera. So this is like first time in my life when kind of my story of going from Soviet Union to democratic Latvia was like, it was not interesting because these people were sharing something like totally much more painful. And the reason why we were able to connect to our client and why they chose us was because we had those people who could connect to them, who could relate to them, how difficult it was, how painful it was, and how much did they lose, right? So it is a huge asset being multinational, international.
Maybe to comment on the coolness factor, I totally agree. I think maybe something that let's say outside of Latvia people need to understand is there's a lot of advanced things going on in the IT sector. So Maksim talked about his areas, we're doing the same thing. There's machine learning, AI, and we're working for Western clients, Europe, UK, US, and they're blown away by the talent that we have here locally. So we talked a lot about bringing talent back, but what we have here is mind-blowing, and we should be very proud of that and pushing that, because the like will attract like. We get people back that are attracted by being with, it's not, maybe Latvia's IT industry started from the traditional outsourcing perspective, but it's no longer the case. We're doing innovating things that are world-class. We've heard about all the success stories, but even the custom building, the AI, the data and analytics, it is mind-blowingly good, and we need to advertise that. It's not just about coming back for the lifestyle. It's you're going to grow your career here, not just keep it doing. You're going to do something special for yourself by coming here, and so getting that message out, I think, would be very important.
Great. Mārtiņ?
I think from my perspective, it is actually quite the opposite. I would say that you don't have to try to bring the 400,000 people back, but you have to attract 1 million new people. Because to tell those stories and to bring this connectivity, you need those Latvians living abroad and working for big organizations and trying to build that community outside. You should not concentrate on bringing them all back. What you should try to do is you should try to give a value proposition which is equally attractive for people who live abroad and are Latvian and who are not. And two things come to mind. One is, it seems to me from the side, looking at Latvian economical development, is we're trying to do a catch-up. Something else does something, we try to do that. Like we are trying to, let's say, talk about upskilling, we're talking about skills which were, let's say, relevant or still are relevant, but were relevant 15 years ago. I would actually try to use the creativity Latvians are known for and like flip it on the head and say, so what are the businesses which are going to be important in 20 years of time? Web 3.0, crypto communities, different, let's say, new skills, AI, but more advanced AI, not like sort of some AI which can explicitly say which picture is the cat, right? Let's talk about next level AI, right? And I think when you talk about that, then immediately you also create certain things you need to teach, you need to infrastructurally develop, and I think Mr. Tully here, if he's still there, like he's already developing some of that new infrastructure which is needed. And the government's, let's say, role should always be support infrastructure-wise and education-wise, but not solve for today, solve for 20 years from now. And let's use the talent we have to, let's say, build a vision, and then that value proposition will attract people who are, let's say, developing for the future. Because otherwise, Latvia becomes a parking spot with a nice weather, good beaches, but not, let's say, future business development opportunities.
I think all of you touched upon it, but it's actually a topic I want to take further with Arvils as well, about the topics, about skills and higher education.
Yeah, we will, of course. But yeah, regarding city and what should be done, of course, city, new government should have two opportunities. One, to focus on communal, on community issues, and that's fine, and fair enough. Another is to create an international strategy, position city in international society, and actually position city regarding to other cities around, like Tallinn, Vilnius, Helsinki, Stockholm, at least in the Nordic area. And then it's a little bit complicated, and there is bad news and good news. From one hand, bad news is, let's say, OECD evaluation regarding Riga city. It's say Riga have an, as I say, evaluating on 30% underdeveloped potential. That could be easily achieved, and it could be bad and good news. As that say, if you will find right alliances with particular groups in the city, it could be scientists, it could be IT people, I don't know, whatever, just name it. But the city have a lot of different groups with development. Then to create alliances with them and focus, you can achieve very fast development. Yeah? Let's say, what I mean by that. Tallinn is, we know Tallinn as a capital of, let's say, digital public services. Yeah? Everybody knows there you can find, even Angela Merkel just said, that is way lagging behind. Yeah? Vilnius started with, we want to be a Baltic capital of business services. You see the Barclay, whatever, all there. And now they are heading towards development of startups in financial sector. And again, that was already mentioned here, very good development, very good cooperation together, government, city, and society alliance. And go ahead, yeah. Sweden, okay, Stockholm is Nordic Silicon Valley, as what they're saying. That's capital and startups, yeah. And what I say for city is very important now in next 2 years to really find out, create alliance and focus, yeah, and really focus. And maybe in 5 years this vision will be not relevant. We'll bring a new one, but at least very important is to focus, yeah.
Totally agree, and only on the level of image, but also on activities and infrastructure, and so. But then the topic raised here about skills. So Arvils, as a representative of state, could you tell us some good news? What happened in the last year or 2 years that makes us hopeful as for making or talent more competitive in the future, and what else we have to do or the government is planning to do in the nearest future?
Okay, it's about education system, and education system is enormously huge, very conservative and very slowly moving. But as a Minister of Economy, I understand it is, there is no other choice. We have to change education system, yeah? Otherwise, the next phase is really about knowledge and skills. And what we did in Parliament, we already finalizing work over new architecture of Latvian education system. Very important, let's say, or cornerstone of this is a higher education. We finalized the system with new typology, that's saying which school has to do what. Yeah. Second is new. Management system, put it like this. There are councils that introduce new system of councils. Well, society are represented there, yeah, and top class management, I hope, will be represented there. And last the last thing that's very important is already started. That is consolidation of education system. When we started, it was close to 52 schools, high schools. Now I think we will in 5 years we will end up with four, let's say, science university ecosystems. It's like consortiums, big consortiums, but at least government will have 4 partners to speak with at the end of the day. Yeah, that is very focused organization and with clear goals. Yeah, and there are 5 very important things what is university should focus. One is accumulate knowledge about things what is really needed. Yeah. Second is develop new knowledge, and this is very important. It's called scientific work. Yeah, and 3 transformations. One is knowledge to new generations, that's teaching students, and 2, society and economy. Yeah, and that is what we really, let's say, developed in law as a system DNA. Yeah, and that should be general aim for new high school management to really supply result. Yeah, and I hope in 3 years from now we will see results. Actually, I have to say in 2 years from now we have extremely big change. Let's say 3 years ago, universities say, oh, well, scientific global competition or presence on global scientific landscape, it's not the business for us. We don't worry, we don't care about this. Now we see extreme changes. For example, Riga Daliņš University from position 900,000, what is it, nothing, that's the mean anything. Right now they're position 600, yeah? And they're going very fast and very smart ahead with, for example, they're really focusing on their scientists' international presence, publications, and voting or citation. Yeah, and they achieve very fast results. The next level is very important regarding science and education as such. Look on this as not as a process itself, but look as investment. Actually, education process is investment. Society investing and expects some results. Yeah, and science is the same. We're working on the financial model. It's saying scientific work, publications. Then spin-offs or patents, yeah, and that is how to bring scientific society into economy and make out of the universities really to support and become actually to economical powerhouses. Yeah, that's very important. I say we're moving actually quite fast ahead, yeah, and I see the big change there.
Excellent. Well, as I think that talent has been mentioned in pretty much every presentation, is the key for attracting capital, the key for social economical development, and I think we need all of that, Mārtiņš. We need both part of our diaspora to come back. We need international students. We need to upskill and reskill our own workforce here and new generation of talent. But I see that we have questions coming in from the audience, and as we have last 5 minutes, I want to give opportunity for audience to ask their questions. So if we could turn to Slido. Yes, so let's start. Mārtiņš, to your mind, what are the future industries that Riga could have a competitive advantage in and should prioritize?
I think it depends a lot on Mr. Ašeradens' plan on education, like what skills truly will have access to in abundance and which are going to be globally competitive. I think that is the most important thing, because right now, as I'm a living proof of that, the world is connected. You can live in one place and you can work globally. So therefore your skill is competing globally. So today, people, let's say most of the workforce in Latvia hasn't competed globally. The output of that has potentially, but also in a very, very small scale. So one thing is to be very, very prudent and say, okay, where I can compete globally because of the scale, because of the skill, or because of specific advantage. So I would say Latvia has a specific advantage and I think Mr. Kazaks is still here or not, but it used to be financial services was a very big asset, right? We have had a drawback in that, but maybe we can bring it back because there was something around underwriting of the risks and ability to, let's say, move financial flows. Right now it doesn't exist, so whether or not it's going to come back.
So Vilnius path or Lithuania?
I mean, Vilnius is definitely right now in terms of, let's say, new 3.0 finance is ahead of us, right? So like the question is, do we want to catch up again or do we want to do something else is different? I would say I very much like, Maksims, your industry because Latvians are equally developed in the left and right side of the brain. What I mean by that is we are, let's say, not maybe as technically skilled mathematically as Chinese, but we are close. But then we are not maybe the most, let's say, advanced industrial designers as Italians, but we are close. An ability to bring those two things together in a Scrum Master profession, it's like it's a perfection because they can speak to the technical talent and they can also talk to the business talent. And I think, let's say, if we can find those cross sections, that would be probably my answer to the point, right? Not only that, but like where we can use some of that advantage we have.
Thank you. Pēteri?
I'd take a comment on that, and then I saw one of the questions about high-value skills, and on the back of that comment, that value of not just being technically minded but creative as well, I think that is in people, and we talk about the confidence to do that, and we're doing it and we're seeing it in our business. People are now frontline working with customers and clients globally. It's no longer that back office kind of technology house, and that to me says we have the high value skills here. We can actually charge more because clients value that, because you're client facing and you can do that. You can blend that business to technology. And I think that's one of the major areas that we do have in our arsenal, and we've just got to leverage it further. So, and again, I'll say it like attracts like. People see that and people will come and be attracted to Latvia to come and learn those skills, not just be that back of house or whatever the traditional or the historical stuff would be. So I think we've got it. It's just about leveraging it and being confident in doing that.
Totally agree. Maksim, question to you about coolness factor. That's not part of the government strategy, so you have to explain what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, there are different ways we can approach that. So one thing is that, you guys are doing with the festival, for example, right? I mean, this brings a lot of coolness factor. Then another point that I understood from IT's perspective is that when you talk to the research companies like Gartner, IDC, et cetera, I was pretty surprised. I understood it about like a year and a half ago, is that if you compare us and let's say Slovakia, which is comparable, right? There seems to be somebody working with those companies from Slovakia so that Slovakia appears much higher on their ratings. And I don't think we're doing a good job and we don't pop up in those ratings, I never was concerned or I never cared about it because we have our own set of, bringing work here, but that's also coolness factor. If you take, for example, Monocle magazine, right? I mean, it publishes those ratings, etc. So probably there is a way to work with them so that they kind of recognize us on the map. Probably there is a way to pull this into a framework, right? So what do you need to do to become cool, to put some science behind that? Probably it's not that difficult, right? But then, you need to be able to get to a solution. And then maybe teething off of the previous topic, right? We're just completing research. We published, the first 5 pages out of, 200 pages, right? So the amount of IT graduates has gone down in the last 3 to 5 years, right? So we are doing quite a lot, but then the question is, how do we get those right parameters to change, right? And this is where we're still probably struggling.
I think it's a wonderful way to finish our panel with the coolness factor. I think it joins what Alessia told about, and Pēteris mentioned in respect to our confidence, but also I think connects it to what Mārtiņš told in respect to ambitions, and once again ambitions as for where we want to get.